All right, good morning. I am going to walk you through how to do some of these problems that are similar to the problems on your homework. And just going to go through these steps of simplifying and then solving. So we're going to look at, now some of these have some decimals and fractions, and that is what it is. We'll make it work. Okay. So we're going to start off, and I'm just going to list out here. So we've got steps here where we are going to change the color. There we go. All right, so we have some steps here, and what we're going to do is the simplify steps. And so in this case, we just basically have the river, um, the parentheses, and the add like terms. Okay. And then we have the solving steps, which we are skipping step 4. So step 5 is to eliminate, I'll just say eliminate the constant and then eliminate the coefficient. And I'm just going to write these steps out and have those out here for us. Not very neat, but then a lot of notes with neat ones there for a while. All right, so I look at step 1 and I draw the river. Okay, so I don't have parentheses, so I'm going to go straight to add like terms. So I add like terms, and I've got 4k minus 5k. 4k minus 5k is, so I just do 4 minus 1, and that's 3, and then minus a half more. So 4 minus 1 is 3, minus a half more is 2.5k. Now, if you're just really like me sometimes in the morning and you're just not sure, like, okay, so yeah, I know that's probably right, but I'm really not sure. That was kind of scary. Okay, so now all we simply have to do is, so we don't have to eliminate the constant because there's nothing being added on that side, so we don't have to eliminate the constant, but what we can do is then eliminate the coefficient by simply dividing by 2.5. And the little trick that I learned in like 7th grade, you're going to move the decimal over, but up here you have to move it over, so we really have 500 divided by 25. Oh, but look, 25 goes into 50. That's 2 times, and then just add a 0. So, or you could use a calculator if you have to, but you should be able to do some of that math mentally. Okay, so k equals 20. All right, so that is just those steps. So I just want to go through a few of these problems so you can see these steps in action, so you can kind of go, oh, okay, got it. So number 2, got some fractions there, but like denominators are my friend, so I'm not going to worry too much about it at this point. But we are going to have, if I'm anticipating here, we are going to have a little bit of a trick that we need to do, and I haven't really done this so with you guys, so it'll be good. Okay. So I've got 5/7p minus 2/7p, so 5 minus 2 is 3/7 plus 12. And don't freak out about that silly fraction, because right now, we've got our p right there. So we need to eliminate these guys here. So minus 12, minus 12. So we have 3/7 p equals negative 6. So be careful of those negatives. So now I've got this number in front of p, and just like back over there, I divided by 2.5 on each side. I'm going to divide by 3.7, 3 over 7, and that just makes it 1. So that's easy on that side. But now I need to come over here and divide by 3/7. Now, if you remember from last year when we did this, if I divide, it's the same thing as multiplying by a reciprocal. So I could change this into times and then flip it. So it becomes negative 6, never change the front one, times, and then 7 over 3. Put a 1 there, do some cross reducing, don't lose the negative, it's negative, still negative. And we end up with negative 14, and that would be our answer. I know that was a little bit, you can rewind this a couple times. So we divide by the fraction, we end up having to multiply by the reciprocal. So we flip and multiply. did some reducing, and multiplied the tops, multiplied the bottoms. We don't need the over 1 part because it's that invisible 1, so we don't need to write that. All right, so I forgot a step. Let's draw the river. Okay, so let's draw the river. So 2/3 y plus 1y, write the 1 in because it is the invisible math there. So I basically get, well, if we want like denominators, we'll go 3/3. And it is easier a little bit like this, so we're going to go ahead and do that. Instead of making it a whole number and making it 1 2/3, it might be easier to see this as 5/3 y minus 4 equals 31. So I simply just made that invisible 1 y. Let me make that 5/3. That invisible 1 y, I just basically made it into 3/3. Why did I do that? So it matched the denominator. So I make a version of 1 that matches the denominator so I can simply add the top numbers. I know it's been drilled in your head, mixed numbers, mixed numbers, mixed numbers, but when we're dealing with algebra, mixed numbers are not usually our friend. So it's actually easier a lot of times in algebra if you don't put it in the mixed form. Okay? So you'll see me leave it in rational form. 5/3 would be rational form as opposed to mixed. Okay? So here's our y. So we're getting away from there. So our 4's got to go and our 5/3 has to go. So it helps me always to make that plan. So plus 4, so I got 35 equals 5/3 y. And this is where it gets kind of tricky because I'm trying to put 5/3 in that little space. Divide by 5/3, and then I can come over here and write the division symbol, 5/3. So it's the same thing as the other problem there. Divided by a fraction, so I'm just going to multiply by their reciprocal. So, and I'm going to put a 1 over, that'll help. So 3/5. And what's nice about this is they cross reduce, so 7, and 7 times 3 is 21. So we end up with 21. So y equals 21. But again, we're just having to do a little bit of gymnastics there with those fractions. So our 1y up in the original problem became 3/3. The denominators were like, so I could add the numerators. So we get 5/3 minus 4, get rid of that minus 4, so add 4. When we're dividing by the 5/3, it's the same thing as multiplying by the reciprocal. So we multiplied and flipped, did our invisible 1. Okay, so did our cross reducing and got 21. Okay, so it's been a few times with the number 2 and 3 split over a couple times and really just work through what the steps were there. And if you have a problem with fractions like that, maybe those little steps will help. Okay, so now I've got this next problem, so I'm going to draw the river. Got like terms, so 2.1 plus 1.3 is going to be 3.4x minus 4.6 equals 2.2. And I'm going to do all this math, 1, because that stupid calculator wasn't working, but 2, because I can't. I don't need that calculator. I don't need no stupid calculator. Okay, so where's our x? We don't have any more like terms, so we just did that step, the like terms. Don't have any parentheses, so we're at the stage now where there's our x, and we need to eliminate the 4.6 and eliminate the 3.4. So then minus 4.6 becomes plus 4.6. And when you're lining this up, line up the decimal. 2 plus 6 is 8. 2 plus 4 is 6. So 6.8, which I kind of thought it might be something like that because once I started the 34, I'm thinking, that is going to be a multiple of that. So I predict on some of these things because when they're in the lessons, a lot of times they kind of try to get the whole numbers when you're first learning. So whole numbers are kind of nice answers, but they're not real life. But for a lot of the introductory lessons, you'll get those. All right, so what you just saw me do is getting rid of that 3.4 by dividing. Okay, so that becomes 1 there on the left. So you have x equals. Now you can either kind of ignore the decimal since it's in the same spot. I like to just move it. So we have basically 68 divided by 34. We moved it one place on top, one place on bottom. We can do that because it's like multiplying the top and bottom by 10, which is a legal move. So, okay, so 34 goes into 68, a whole whopping 2 times. So if you could see that. If you had to, I guess you could use a calculator, but hopefully you can just kind of take a step back and see. So x equals 2. Okay. All right, so that is that answer. Okay, so now this particular problem, when we go through the steps, I draw the river. I do have parentheses, so I'm going to multiply 3 times 5, 3 times, make my 2 marks. Okay, so 3 times 5 is 15, plus 3 times negative 2 is negative 6h, plus, and just bring that 9 down, equals negative 30. Add your like terms, 15 plus 9 is 24, plus a negative 6h equals negative 30. Minus 24, make your 2 marks. So negative 30 plus a negative 24 is going to be negative 54. And that's one where a lot of people make mistakes right there. So they bring that minus 24 over there and either lose one of the negatives while they're bringing it, or forget about the fact that they're both negative, so they add to become more negative. So instead of negative 30 and negative 24, it's even more negative at negative 54. Negative 6h. Oh, look, I can divide each side by negative 6. Cool. And here's again another, I'm going to put the h equals, another sign rule. Negative divided by negative is positive, and then we simply get 9. So your answer is 9. And then I usually go back and just check all my signs and make sure I had a positive 15 and 19. It became positive 24. I subtracted 24 as a negative 30, a negative 24, negative 54. I really do go back. I double check. 3 times a negative 2. Okay, yeah, that should have been a negative 6h. So I go back through and just check my signs really quick, because that is the number one place people will make mistakes, including me. I do it too. All right. So 14 times x minus 3 minus 22x equals negative 18. So we're almost done here. Okay, so just multiply. Now you're thinking 14 is kind of a big number. We could do it. 14x minus 3 times 4 is 12. Carry the 1, 3, 4. So 42 minus 22x equals negative 18. Please do not struggle with the multiplication. If you can't carry that multiplication pretty quick, pull up the Desmos calculator and get that done. Now, I kind of was messy here. Make sure that we're clear here. I've seen people miss problems because they write the 14 and then the 1's not very good and they think it's 4. I really have. I have seen a lot. Okay, so we've got our river, which I forgot to draw before. We're adding like terms. So I have 14x, and if I did my 2 marks, plus a negative 22. So I know I'm going to have negative something here. 22. 14 to 12 is 8. So 8x. I said 12. 14 to 22 is 8. Plus a negative 42 equals negative 18. So I'm seeing here, I've got to get, here's my x, so I've got to get rid of the negative 42. So I'm at plus 42, plus 42. So since 18 was negative and this is plus, I have to subtract. So 42 minus 10 is 32, minus 8 is 24, equals negative 8x. So I divided by negative 8, divided by negative 8, x equals negative 3. Okay, so I go back there and check. So 14 was going to be positive. 14 times negative 3 is going to be negative 42, negative 22, negative 42 plus 42. Okay, it looks like I did that right. Didn't make any mistakes. So, all right, so that's how you do those problems. Take some time to go over those. I'm going to do one of these problems because you're probably going to see it at some point. So it says the sum of the measures of the interior angles of a triangle is 180. So that means that if I add the 3 angles, I get 180. So that means that if I add 3x plus 44 plus x plus 20, it's going to equal 180. Where did I get those numbers? If I add the sum of the three angles of a triangle equals 180. So I simply add them together. There's no parentheses. When you say, well, there was parentheses, yes. But on this one, there was parentheses, but nothing on the outside. So we didn't have to, kind of the invisible math, we didn't really have to include them when we brought them down to write them. If there's a number on the outside, then we would have parentheses. Add my like terms. So I've got my invisible math, add my like terms, draw my river. Okay, 4x plus, and add my like terms, 44 plus 20 is 64, equals 180, minus 64. 121, 16, I think. Is that right? Equals 4x, divide by 4, divide by 4. X equals 4 into 11 is 12, 3, 9. Okay, so 4 into 11 goes twice with a remainder of 3, and 4 goes into 36 9 times. So x equals 29. And it says, write and solve the equation to find the value of the variable. So what is x? So we did do that. So x equals 29. Sometimes it'll say to plug it back in and tell me what each of the angles is, but that did not. So, and we're done. So that is how we do these problems. I know that this is just one more resource to watch. Go along with it. Say, oh, that looks like my problem. So just play it step by step as you're doing your problem. Okay. Just make sure you don't write down my stuff because your problem's probably a little bit different. All right. Well, thank you.